Okay, so in the last video, talked about the recipe, how recipes work, and then given a recipe, we can figure out, just a cooking recipe, you can figure out, if you're given a certain recipe, you can figure out how many cups of each ingredient you need from the recipe in a kind of table form. That hopefully makes sense. And it's not meant to just be, plug and chug. It's supposed to be think about what you're doing, all right? This video is going to be talking about the other way around. Let's say you're given a certain amount of cups of substance or an ingredient. You want to figure out how many recipes you can do with it. Okay, and again, it's the whole grouping thing. And let's say we will be using our same recipes. Let's use these 3 cups of flour. And notice how I write it. I write it 3 cups per, 3 cups of flour per recipe. And I told you that's my group. Okay. All right. Okay, in this case, let's say I start up with 15 cups of flour. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, and what I want to do is find out how many recipes I can get from that. So this is what I'm given, and this is what I want to get. Let's see how that looks. Okay. You might have to adjust your screen a little bit so you can move in and out. This is the closest I can get to the screen with my video camera here. Okay, so if I have 15 cups, what I'm going to do is going to break those 15 cups into 3 cups per recipe. All right, so I'm going to divide 15 cups up into groups of 3 cups per recipe. Okay, I'm going to physically do that. All right, have 15 cups, and I break them up into 3 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I break them up, the 15 groups up into groups of 3, I end up with 5 recipes. So in this case, you're grouping. And when you group, you always start with a big number, and you end up with a smaller number. So I'm going to use the same words over and over when you hear this. So what I did was I divided 15 cups up into groups of 3. So I split the 15 cups into groups of 3. And when I did that, I ended up with 5 recipes. Okay, now let's go over to the recipe table and practice some of these. Okay. All right. In this case, you just can start with one of them and figure out what you need to find out. Okay. And I'm going to always be using big numbers. That's easy to do the math, and you shouldn't have to sit there with your calculator and pump away those numbers. Okay, so let's say I started out, you're given 10 cups of sugar. You want to know how many recipes that is. Okay, using the same idea here, what you have to do is think about this. So what you're going to do is you're going to divide 10 cups up into groups of 2 cups per recipe. Okay, when you do that, divide this up, chop, 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 chop. And when you do it, you actually do divide. So you divide the 10 into groups of 2. And you get 5 recipes. Okay, let's try another one. For flour. All right. You're given 30 cups of flour. And what you want to do is find out how many recipes you can do with that. Okay, so each recipe is 3 cups. So what you can do is divide the 30 cups into groups of 3. And when you do that, you end up with 10 recipes. Okay. Okay, so on your own, why don't you try this? Let's say, oh, I want to have okay. All right. So why don't you try these? So let's say the first, these are 2 different problems, they're not the same. So if you have 18 cups of flour, how many recipes will you get? And the second problem, if you have 10 cups of milk, how many recipes will that give? And again, what you need to do is draw this table. And you could draw it once, and since they're different, or you can draw it twice. And you can shut off the video and come back to it after you've done it. And when you do that, I'll be here doing it. Okay, so the first one, I have 18 cups. And what I'm going to do is divide that up into groups of 3. And when I do that, I can do the recipe 6 times. Okay, so I divided it up into groups of 3. And I do the recipe 6 times. All right, if I'm given 10 cups of flour, okay, each recipe only has 1 cup. And if I have 10 cups, it's obviously I can do the recipe 10 times. So you're dividing the 10 up into 1. Okay. So that's how you go from cups to recipes. Okay, now the give review is okay, if you're given recipes, like 6, you're given 6 recipes, you're going to ungroup. So you're going to do 3 6 times, and then you'll end up with 18. So Essentially, you're multiplying, you're letting out of each group 3 cups. So the table set up, like the grouping, is that you're letting out, the number will get bigger when you go down. You're letting out, down, out of. Okay. Now if you go in the other way, let's say you start out with 14 cups of sugar. How many recipes can you do that? Well, you divide the 14 up into groups of 10 for 7 recipes. So this kind of scheme is, and the trick, sort of the overall type of scheme is that it's when you go down the table, you're letting out, numbers get bigger, okay? You're multiplying, and when you go up the table, you divide and the numbers get smaller. Again, what's always going to be the same when we write this table would be this. These numbers here, which would be the same as the coefficients. Okay, in the next video, I am going to combine the two and see how you can go from recipes, cups, and cups to recipes.